Before we get out of here, I want to touch one more hot topic here. Brady, as you know, there was a second round of gambling violations for players, most notably with the Lions. What is your solution, or what do you think is going on?
Well, there's another one that's like we expect more suspensions coming.
That's coming out here soon. So
they're investigating.
How do they avoid this? It's such a sticky situation because the NFL gets so much money from sports books, and of course they can't be gambling on the NFL, but it's
hypocritical, one, for the NFL to be making as much money as they are off of these books and maintaining the same gambling policy you've had for forever. Look, I think the NFL and the NFLPA really need to come together and say, we're only hurting ourselves if we're like potentially putting every single NFL player, personnel, everyone at risk if we don't change our policies. And I'm not advocating for them allowing gambling on the NFL, not at all. And not even necessarily in team facilities. Like, I think that's kind of a gray area where, like, if it's May and the dude's betting on a playoff hockey game and he happened to do it from his locker because he was there till 7 p.m., like, are we really that concerned? I mean, I just think they should really allow this conversation to happen where you're obviously going to be restrictive towards anything involving the NFL. Everything else, it's probably fair game. And, look, if these guys want to do it, they're going to have the ability to do that, even if they wanted to do it, because that's always going to exist no matter what rules, regulations, laws are out there. If people want to get away with illegal stuff, they're going to do it. But they need to look at changing the gambling policies to allow players to do more, with the exception of the NFL.
And I think it's interesting, too. So, like, let's say hypothetically, Jameson Williams, who's been suspended 6 games for gambling on college football inside an NFL facility. He leaves the facility of the Lions in May. He decides he wants to make a bet on week 1, whoever, like, I don't know, Michigan's playing, right? He wants to bet Michigan minus 39 against
Hawaii or someone. Yeah.
Hawaii, yeah, exactly. Whatever it is. And he gets in his car and he drives out to the stoplight to leave the Lions facility, and he's sitting there waiting, and he decides to place the bet, but he doesn't realize he's still on the Lions Wi-Fi.
Or that, yeah.
Or he's like geographically located on the Lions facility, or he's at home and he tries to put the bet in, and he closes the app and he puts his phone in his pocket and he drives to work, and the bet isn't placed, and he opens up the phone and the bet continues to cycle through and gets placed while he's on the Wi-Fi there. And I know that I'm being like a little pedantic here, but the point is, like, they are they can
geofencing. And the problem is, if you turn off your location, right, that's not a part of that bet.
You can't make the bet.
You can't make the bet, but also to your point about the process you just talked about, that process isn't going to kick in, and so it might have your old location.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly. Like, there's and like you're required. So the NFL has people working with the sports books. I think they have third party guys, and they have guys within every single one of these legal sports books who know, like, you have to use your real name. You can't register as like blah blah. Yeah. And like as an account, you have to use your real name. So they know these NFL players that have these registered legal sports betting accounts. They can track them. Who gives a crap if you were betting on college football in the team facility? Now, if you're doing it during practice, that's a whole different ball game. That's your coach's issue. Like, if you got guys who have got phones out betting on college football, that's one thing. So they need to figure out a way. There's just too many.
Well, here's how areas. Teams can help that, because when I go into the studio at CBS, you are blocked from going on any gambling sites. You try to go in on something, you can't.
Which makes total sense for a sports gambling website.
But hold on. That's through Wi-Fi though, right?
Yeah.
But but you think the players are going on, they're obviously logging on to the team Wi-Fi or whatever. That is at least one step. It's not going to prevent it completely, but if you block them from going on there.
If they have a cellular connection, that would make it kind of irrelevant.
I mean, it's at least, but to Katie's point, it's at least it's at least one reminder. You're like, oh, hey,
they're trying to help the athlete.
You try to bet it, and it's like that site is blocked by the NFL's gambling team thing firewall. And then if you turn off the Wi-Fi and make the bet anyway, then you probably deserve the 6 games.
Yes.
Well, the other thing is like, look, I mean, I played at a time where you went back to the offseason in March. There was March Madness. You had pools. You had people. I mean, it happened. Like, we're never condemning that. I mean, are we being serious right now about like where do we draw the line in regards to what we consider gambling and what's not? Is it not your fantasy leagues if there's money involved? Is it not the March Madness when you fill out a bracket and people are throwing in money to that? I mean, it's like at what point do we draw the line with all of this? So I just think they really need to have a good, long, hard conversation about revisiting the gambling policies that are in place, putting in, Katie, as you pointed out, some different measures to try to prevent that. But again, if they want to have a bookie, like, I'm sorry to admit it to people, if this is the truth, they can still go find a bookie. Like, there's people can go buy marijuana in states where it's legalized. Guess what? They still have someone who's selling that's not necessarily legal. Like, it's still
what?
Country. I know, it's crazy. I know it's crazy to actually with this on the podcast, but I'm just like, they need to revisit that conversation and not be implementing policies that are decades old at this point.